Hello, this is the first video uploaded to the Eastern Media YouTube channel, and it's also the first in this series I'm starting called 5-Minute Materialism. These are quick 5-minute analysis articles that I've written analyzing events both past and present. So without further ado, let's begin. There were more defectors from socialist countries to Western capitalist ones during the Cold War because of the following. Number 1. Deliberate strategy to brain drain and therefore weaken the USSR/PACT. Higher pay for specialists in the West, i.e. lower number of specialists in the West, therefore higher demand and higher pay comparative to the socialist countries, where many people could easily access higher education and as such there was a higher volume of specialists. Gave people the incentive to try to take the education that was paid for and was received for free by the socialist states to the capitalist ones. This is the chief reason the Berlin Wall was erected, and even despite this, around 20%, 1 in 5, individuals who moved from the GDR to the FDR moved back to the GDR. Of course, there were other reasons for some, more nuanced, like family location. But the primary motivator was higher specialist wages and overall richer starting conditions of West Germany compared to East Germany, which leads on to the second point. However, before we move to the second point, I must say that it isn't uncommon to see ignorant liberal Westerners, or primarily Americans, courageously quoting the criminal John F. Kennedy. Quote, "Democracy may not be perfect, but we never had to build a wall to keep our people in." Number 2. Western capitalist states started off far richer and less destroyed than socialist ones. Much of Eastern Europe was destroyed after the Great Patriotic War, whereas most of Western Europe was largely untouched. On top of that, Western European capitalist regimes were still benefiting and enriching themselves off their crimes in Africa and Asia, and as such started off far richer than most of the Eastern countries did. The new state taking up the torch of global imperial fascism, the USA, fully understood this and flooded West Germany with money via the Marshall Plan to further increase the contrast between East and West Germany for not only reasons of our previous point, but also for propaganda purposes, which to a large extent worked. Such contrasts are highlighted in most mythological liberal Western pseudo-history textbooks. Point number 3. Deliberate 3-letter agency side campaigns targeting the public of socialist states in order to destabilize and or undermine socialism, which continuously failed for decades as a result of people's own lived improvements as a result of socialism. It should be mentioned that the primary motivator of moving west was the already existing material contradictions we just stated in the previous point, not the liberalized propaganda campaigns waged by the 3-letter agencies through outlets like Radio Free Europe or Radio Liberty, which is founded by the CIA. Some argue that the USSR made a mistake by not performing similar acts upon the Western public out of reciprocity, as the USSR instead believed that class contradictions themselves would prove the superiority of communism over capitalist reign, rather than propaganda campaigns, which capitalist regimes still rely on to this day to paint themselves as superior. Earlier mentioning of mythological Western pseudo-history textbooks, for example. To close this first episode of 5-Minute Materialism, we'll take some past examples and compare them to the modern-day reality. Viktor Belenko gave up the legendary MiG-25 interceptor jet to the West under false promises of riches and prosperity. He betrayed his people, country, and disgraced his family name to live in a racist society that he never fully acclimatized to in the USA. He lived out his days like this. Today, you would absolutely never see a Chinese defecting to the USA. Because of the internet, people can now see how things really are for themselves if they're curious. If anything, a mass defection of American citizens to China is more likely to occur if Americans weren't already impoverished to the point of the inability to travel abroad or leave their country. As always, there's more nuance and more things that can be said, but we've reached our 5-minute mark, so that's all for this episode.